Welcome to the Fertility Rewire podcast. I'm your host, Kat Stevens, a fertility therapist, educator and advocate. I want to share with you what you should have been told, what you should be being told, and basically to arm you on this journey so that you have the right information to be able to ask the right questions to get the answers you need. You can find me at fertilityrewire.com. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Well, hello and welcome to the Fertility Rewire podcast. And in this episode, I am going to talk to you about a sense of feeling lost when you're trying to get pregnant and what that means, what that might be caused by, and what you can do potentially about that. It's one of the biggest sort of emotions that I come across a lot with people at all stages on their fertility journey. And the reason that, first of all, that I've not been here for a while, if you're a regular listener, I've had a few weeks away, is because I've been inundated with requests for information and advice since starting to do more TikTok videos. And so I took a bit of a step back and I've created a digital program. So it's Conceivable, the digital program, which is all the information about your fertility, how to understand your fertility more, how to identify what could be stopping you from getting pregnant, with videos of me explaining that, with supporting even information and resources, as well as my action plan and treatment plan that I go through with my clients. So self-directed treatments that you can undertake yourself, both from a physical and an emotional aspect. So incorporating the reflexology pressure points that I work with based on your cycle and your findings and your tests, and also supporting emotional aspects there, as well as some other physical therapies as well. So that's where I've been. I've got that sorted, and that's now available for an introductory price at the moment of listening to this in December 2022 of just £40.44. So I will put the details of that in the show notes. So, feeling lost. Now, it's a strong emotion, the feeling lost, because when you're feeling lost, it can bring you a sense of despair, a sense of hopelessness, of not really knowing the way forward, and not knowing where you are actually, and that's key. And often that's not what you think of when you're feeling lost. It's that you don't know where to go. You maybe have tried everything, you're not feeling in control. And there are times on this journey, and this sense of feeling lost can be very evident when you first start trying, in that first 6 months to a year, when you can't have tests and there's no information that's available for you. But also further on in your fertility journey, whether this is your first, second, or, child or more, is that it's just, you might have gone to the doctors and had tests, and there's a sense of hope. It's almost as if someone's giving you a map and they're going to show you the way forward, they're going to show you a way out, and actually it doesn't always happen, does it? And sometimes you feel like you've just been put in another place and you're still lost and you still don't know the way forward. So what I wanted to talk about here is, wherever you are at, if you are feeling lost, then first of all, the thing that you need to know is where you are. So in order to get help, in order to get to support and to know where you're going next, if you think about you were actually lost while out walking, you would have to know where you are to be able to get that help and support, or even to know where you are to be able to then yourself move forward and find your way. So where are you? What do you know about your fertility? What do you know about what's stopping you from getting pregnant? What's really stopping you from getting pregnant? And to know that, you'll know, you've heard me say it before, you have to fully understand about your fertility, about how the reproductive system really works, that it doesn't work like we were told in school, that if you look at a boy, you're going to get pregnant. As soon as you start your periods, you're able to have children. And if you have sex, you will get pregnant and it will ruin your life. So do everything in your power to stop yourself from getting pregnant. And then we fast forward and we're at a stage in our life where we want to have a child or another child. And that switch that tells us that being pregnant would be the worst thing in the world hasn't always been switched off. The wanting to be pregnant switch hasn't necessarily been switched on. And we go into this with a sense of fear about other things. We have a fear about not getting pregnant, whereas our previous fear was perhaps getting pregnant. So that fear and those recurring what ifs in your mind, and expecting the doctors to support you and to tell you everything you need to know about how to get pregnant. And that information just isn't there. And this isn't me slating doctors, not for one moment. It's the system that they're working in. The medical model for fertility is flawed. The medical model for lots of things is flawed. And I give an example, that when you're looking at why you're not getting pregnant, there's just a few basic tests that point you towards which sort of assisted conception you require. Potentially. No guarantees, of course, but which sort of assisted conception you would be pushed towards. It's the same as, in some ways, and I know it's a strange analogy, but if you had, you were getting palpitations of your heart and they did a few basic tests and said, well, we can't see anything wrong, so I think the best thing is that we do a heart transplant or we do a bypass. It's not the only way. We need to take many more steps back. We need to find out where you are. So, I want you to take a gentle breath in now and a long, slow breath out and settle yourself. And let's think about where you are. And to know where you are, you need to truly understand what information your cycle is giving you. I have a free resource on the website fertilityrewire.com, which is what your bleed tells you about your fertility. That's a good place to start. Then, if you've listened to other episodes, you'll know the importance of tracking your cycle, not to a sense of it getting stressy, but just knowing and understand what signs your cycle is giving you. Having the appropriate tests, and if you're not in the place for tests yet, don't worry, there's still a lot you can do, and being able to interpret those results. And if you haven't had those tests yet, then you're in an earlier stage and you can really start to dig in and to understand more about not just one reproductive system, but the reproductive system of both of you, because it takes two people to make a baby and it takes two people to affect fertility. So there are factors that you may consider that things are normal, but actually, as you've heard me talk about many times, I'm sure, it's actually these micro factors. There are so many factors that affect fertility, and if just a few of them are out of sync, it can have a massive effect on the overall picture. So vitamin D is a massive thing. I urge you, and look back at the previous podcast, by all means, to get your vitamin D levels tested, especially if you're here in Europe, in Northern Europe, where I sit on a murky grey day in Nottingham. It's really, really important to get that vitamin D tested for both of you. And you can do home tests for that if you can't get your doctors to do that. So it's really important when we're looking at where we are, we're looking at where we both are. Look into diet factors, look into lifestyle factors, but have a trusted source. You can't believe anybody when you're lost in the wilderness as to how to get out. You need to know that somebody knows that terrain, that they know where you're at, and they know exactly how they can help you get out. So trusted sources are really, really important. I often talk about forums, and what I really want you to understand about forums is you haven't generally got a health professional or a fertility expert there talking. It's often people's opinions and what's worked for them, and that may well help. But as I've said many times as well, what works for Jane doesn't necessarily work for you. A recent thread on one of my videos on TikTok was somebody said about a short luteal phase. I took vitamin C and it worked for me. And it's great that that worked for them and that vitamin C may have indeed been one of the factors, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that will work for you. Other people have suggested Agnus castus, and Agnus castus is a herb, and it's also referred to in other parts of the world as vitex or chasteberry. Now, yes, that does work for some people, but also when you look into that, it depends. Is it just that there's estrogen dominance? What is the progesterone? It's important that we look at a bigger picture. So we can't just keep sticking everything on, because then there are too many variables and we don't know what we need to be doing. To get this right information from trusted sources will give you an understanding, and that will then allow you to develop an action plan based on evidence, an action plan based on research, an action plan that is workable for you. And that action plan can include getting tests, how to get tests, how to speak to doctors to get tests. It could include self-care techniques and advice. But before that, to really track and understand what your cycle's telling you, those real key factors, using home testing wisely, whether that be urine tests, whether that be blood tests. I've talked about ovulation tests before, and when we're looking at ovulation, we need a baseline for the luteinizing hormone, so there is an inaccuracy in some ovulation predictor kits, so we want something else to back that up. Testing your progesterone is getting much easier. I know that that's available with Mira, the Mira Fertility Analyzer. If you use their Confirm ones, you can test your progesterone. But there's also another company called Prove, which is PROOV, and you can get urine sticks to test your progesterone. And I'm hoping to speak to somebody from that company soon, and I will share that with you as well. And then when we've got all this information in our action plan, it's about supporting ourselves physically and emotionally. And I talk about both of those aspects. They both affect each other, and certainly they play a part in fertility, especially when it comes to this emotion, this feeling of being lost, this feeling of needing a direction. And sometimes it's about maybe feeling like you've been left behind and that people aren't helping you move forward. So take another breath and have a think as you breathe out deep and slow. Why are you lost? Where are you? From what I've just said to you just before now, what do you think you could do? Do you need to find out more about where you are? And how are you going to do that? And if you need my help, I'm here. You know that. You can see, you can look to the website, fertilityrewire.com, which is currently being revamped. So bear with. It is still up, but there's a new one coming. You could look to the Conceivable digital program, which might give you that first step. Not everybody is in a position to work with me one-to-one or ready to work with me one-to-one, or the group program. It depends. So have a little think about where you are. If you need some help, first of all, to find out where you are. And then if you need some help with some directions to get to where you want to be. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. If you are feeling lost, I am truly sorry, and I am here for you if you want. But you can always find your way. But before you can do that, you have to know where you are now. And that is, I think, the most important thing. And I'm afraid you are not going to get that from your doctors. Not because of any fault on doctors, just because of the medical model. So arm yourself with information. Find out what's really happening in your reproductive system, how it should be working, and what you can do about it. Okay, so for now, take care, and I will speak to you soon. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And whether you're trying for your first child, your second child, or more, whether you've just started on your journey or you've been on the twists and turns of this for a long time, I really hope this information is going to help you ask the right questions to get the right answers. And if you want to know any information about Fertility Rewire, about working with me, or the free resources that I have available, please visit www.fertilityrewire.com. Until next time.